I was first introduced to tennis. I was a rising sixth grader, and I was homeschooled, and we had a PE teacher about 30 minutes away that was teaching tennis to homeschoolers for a PE class. And we needed a PE, so we signed up, and the first day I was out there, I liked it and I was pretty good at it. So we just kept playing, and then kept playing for 10 years after that. When I first started tennis, I was playing 7 other sports at that exact time, and within about 2 years I narrowed it down to 2 others. And then after about a year after that, Mom said, you guys have got to pick one sport, this is too much now. So we had to drop our other sport for the both of us and stuck with tennis. It wasn't for a while. I knew I was best in my group that I had there with me. There was only about 10 of us, and we were the intermediate group, and there was actually a group above us. So I was thinking, okay, well, there's 13 kids above me who are better than I am just in this one small homeschool group. So if I go to the different one, on the other side of the neighborhood, there's probably some kids better there. And then just outside of homeschoolers, there's probably public schools, private schools. Shoot, I'm probably terrible right now. So after a couple years, I played a tournament, and then I got 4th place in my first tournament. And then I was like, well, I can't be that bad. And then as I just kept playing, I got to bigger tournaments. And then after about 3 years, I was like, no, I'm pretty good at this when you think about it. So it took a while. It wasn't right away. I was, I'm pretty good. As after a lot of playing time and a lot of hard work already, I thought, I'm not too bad at this. When I figured out that I was pretty good, I was probably 8th grade or a freshman in high school. 3 going on 4 years. Tennis coach, I've probably taken from private lessons probably 4 or 5. But when I was at academies, we would have 65 kids on court, and they would have about 10 coaches just roaming. Just walking around the courts, just, hey, you're doing this wrong, do this a little bit better, fix this, blah, blah, blah. They'd say certain things. So if you look at it that way, I probably had 20 coaches. But from private coaches that I would just be one-on-one court with them, or they would travel to tournaments with me, probably 4 or 5. The easiest, if you're not one of the best players, the easiest way to get noticed is for them to notice your work ethic and how much time you're putting in on court and how they're seeing results. So, if you're one of the worst kids in the group and they see you working hard and really trying to get better, they'll start noticing you, saying to talking coach to coach and say, hey, so-and-so over there is really grinding, putting in the hours. They're getting a lot better. And then they'll start noticing you, and then they'll start working with you more, trying to make you better. And then you'll be one of the top kids, and it's just, just because you worked really hard, and then the coaches notice you. 95% of it is mental. 95%. A lot of it is mental. It's almost all mental to me. I realized it pretty quick, probably after about 2 years. But even though I realized it, I didn't really care. I played for 3-4 years, and I played a tournament, and I behaved very poorly. My parents took me off court, no tournaments for 6 months, and it really irritated me going to these tournaments with my sister and seeing her play and me not playing. And so I realized pretty quick, and then after that, I made a quick adjustment and stopped, doing the things I was doing on court. And right after that, I was never the same. I told myself I was going to change for the better, and I did. So that helped a lot, being taken off court and disciplined by my parents. Well, there's a fine line between getting on yourself for missing a ball and being negative. So the things I was doing was, if I missed a shot, I would yell, oh, you suck, or you're so bad, or why is your forehand so bad, or just throwing my racket. When I was younger, cry on court, things like that. But now at the tournaments that I play, you'll see me have a little outburst. But if I miss a ball, I'll say, "Oh, don't miss that in the net," or don't miss that ball, things like that. Or if it's 30 all and I miss the first serve, I'll get on to myself like that's the time you can't miss the first serve. Like you got to make first serves there, things like that. You know, constructive criticism from myself, not so much stuff to break me down. Just reminding myself like, hey, if you want to win this match, you can't do that. Strategies before every match, they really vary from player to player. But whenever I know a lot of people that they go on court saying, oh, this kid, you know, he's really good backhand, poor forehand, blah, 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 good serve. You're going to want to do this and this and this to beat him. And that's not me. You know, I'm rather laid back on court. I don't really care about that stuff. I just look at it from my end of the court. You know, if I hold up my end, I can beat anybody. I know I can. So I'm not going to worry about do this to this kid. I just get on court, play my game, enjoy myself, have fun. And I usually try and let the rest take care of itself. But I'm not one to go on court thinking how this kid's going to play and how I've got to beat him. I go on court thinking how I'm going to play and how I've got to play to help myself win is a better way that I like to look at things. It's a tough time. It's a very, very tough time. It's going through the place where you're just not really seeing results, not really seeing your game get better. You're not seeing match wins. The toughest part about it is probably whenever you're in that, you're seeing your friends move on and they're getting those match wins, they're getting the points, they're getting just better, and you're kind of stuck there. You know, it's just grinding. Do you want it bad enough? You know, that's all it is. Because look at the best players in the world. Every single one of them's gone through it. Novak Djokovic went through it 2 months ago, and he's in the quarters of Wimbledon now. You know, he lost in the first round of like a Masters 5 or a ATP 500 event to someone who's not that great, and now he's quarters of Wimbledon. You know, it's just, do you really want it bad enough, and are you willing to grind and really, you know, that's where it comes back to it being all mental. Do you think you can do it, or if you're going to tell yourself, oh, I mean, maybe this is just where my peak is, all right, then why play tennis anymore if you don't want to keep trying to get better? You just got to keep grinding and finding new ways to improve, because sometimes the same thing is going to work for a month and it's not going to work anymore. So you got to just figure out new ways and piece things together to put the puzzle together. When I was younger, probably 2 or 3 years ago, you know, sophomore, junior in high school, I was thinking I was, you know, top stuff, pretty much went on court like, yeah, like I'll win, it's no biggie. And then if I lost, I was like, oh, I don't know how that happened. It's part of just growing up. You know, I was young and stupid and inexperienced. Just didn't really put a whole lot of intensity in the things that I did. And then as I've grown up, I've really realized, you know, like, hey, there's people watching every move you make at these tournaments, even though you don't realize it. There's scouts everywhere. There's people, recruiters have sent out here to watch that you don't know about. And then as soon as I began the recruiting process and I had people watching me that I didn't know about, and then I would text a coach that was, you know, contacting me, I'd be like, oh, you know, I won so-and-so, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, I know, I had people there. And I wouldn't know it. And I was like, oh, gosh, you know, there's people following my every move at these tournaments. Like I ought to shape up and, you know, do what I know is best, even though it may not be the most fun at all times. At times, a lot. At times, none. And at other times, way too much. Right now, I couldn't tell you what any of my rankings are because I don't really care about them anymore. But when I was probably 14, 15, 16, I looked at them religiously. Every day was like the first thing I did was I went and checked my tennis recruiting. If I wasn't top 100, I was, you know, pretty irritated. I got to go sign up for a tournament right now, and I got to do well. But as I got older and I finished my recruiting process, you know, signed with the college, figured out the next couple years of my life, I stopped caring. You know, after I committed, I was like, well, it's just going to be spending the next 4 years of my life with. They're not going to be trying to recruit me anymore. They've got me. What's the point in trying to better my rankings? I'm just going to have fun on court now. I don't care if I stay where I am as long as I keep producing, my tennis keeps going up. That's all that really matters to me. So I probably, up until this weekend, I actually checked it for the first time this weekend. I hadn't checked them since probably sophomore year in high school. So I don't really care about them at all anymore. They just mean nothing to me. They don't define you as a person or a player. There's a lot of ways to beat that system. and a lot of kids are beating the system, and so you can't judge a kid based off of how good his rankings are. It's just once you're on court, whoever's the smarter, better player that day is going to win. So that's all that really matters in my mind. To me, the definition of playing smart tennis is, I really don't have a definition, but an example that I could think of would probably be sometimes to win the easiest, you don't have to try the hardest. It's just, I've had coaches tell me before, try smarter and not harder. If you're playing someone who's got a really good backhand, why hit it to his backhand? Hit it to his forehand. That's just playing smarter. Or someone moves well laterally, but how do they move side to side? Okay, well, don't hit drop shots. Move them out to the sides and then use those angles. Get them outside the middle of the court and then use those drop shots, so you've got to run a little bit more distance. It's just playing smarter and figuring out how to get around your opponent instead of going straight through them with power. It's how can I get around them or underneath them or over them, with every little thing that I've got in my game that I can use. It's just because for me, I'm a small guy. I'm 5'9", 150 pounds. I'm not the biggest guy in these tournaments. I get my match wins from outbraining these guys. They go out there and, I've played guys that are 6'3", 185, 200 pounds, and they're serving 130 miles an hour, but they make 2 balls in a row and then they miss. So I'm not going to go out there and try and hit winners on them. I'm like, okay, if I go out there and I just mix up the paces, different spins, different speeds, they're going to break down. And I've gone out there against guys who are a lot bigger, a lot better, and they just don't like how I'll hit a hard ball, a drop shot, a slice, an angle. It just throws off their rhythm. They didn't hit 2 shots in a row for 2 rallies in a row, 2 of the same shots in a row, and they'll go out there and they're better than me, but I'll win 2 and 1 just because, smarter, not harder. A lot of it is just how bad you want it. There's, people have told me myself that I could go pro. They've asked me if I wanted to. But honestly, whenever I started tennis, whenever I was a young kid, and every kid's got those aspirations like, oh, what do you want to do with tennis? I want to be the best player in the world. I never looked at it that way. I just competitive drive with my brother. They would say, what do you want to do with tennis? I want to be better than Marshall. That was all I ever cared about. It was just, we were just so competitive. It was just, I want to be the best player in my house is all I said. I just want to be the best player in my house. So, if you want to be pro, you've got to sacrifice a ton of things that, to me, aren't worth sacrificing. You've got to give up a lot of family time, traveling to, different continents for tournaments, all these other countries, spending weeks away from home, just giving up a lot of social life, not being able to go to high school dances, and growing up, really, it's just a massive part of growing up that, makes a person, and it's such a high risk, high reward thing. Is, if I were to try and go pro 2 years ago, if I decided I was going to do that, and I'd spent the next year away from my home, not seeing my family, not seeing my friends, and then say I don't make it, I come back home, I'm 18, have nothing to do with myself. I didn't get recruited because I'm off playing pro tournaments, don't have any friends at home, didn't really connect with my family while I'm gone. It's like I've just gotten thrown to the wolves, and it's like, what have I done with myself? So it's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, tons of sacrifices you've got to be willing to give up. But if you're willing to do it, and you've got the support system behind you with the parents and the family and the friends, and you like the sport enough, there's nothing holding you back. If you want to do it, go for it. There's no one to tell you no. It's just, it's will you make it is the big question, because there's a fine line between being good and being pro, and it's just, that makes or breaks a lot of players. Enjoy it and listen to your parents. Enjoy the process, and a lot of times your parents know more than you think they might whenever it comes to on-court situations. If you're on court, you might not pick up on a certain pattern, but if you're watching off court, it's just plain as day what the pattern is, and you won't catch up on it on court, and you'll come off and your parents will say, dude, this kid only hit serves to your backhands, why didn't you? You're like, no, they didn't do that. And you don't catch up onto it until you watch a film of you playing, and then it hits you. You're like, wow, That kid didn't hit a single serve to my forehand, only served to my backhands. And my parents told me that. I mean, your parents don't even – my parents have played tennis enough times to count on your hands, and I refused to listen to them until a year or two ago. I just wouldn't listen to them, didn't really care. They'd tell me one thing, and I would just completely over my head be like, yeah, okay, yeah, guys. I mean, you can barely tell what a backhand is. So I wouldn't really listen to them. And then as I got older, got smarter, I started to listen to them more and more, and that helped a lot. So it'd just be enjoy it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just have fun while you're out there. Don't really worry about what other people are saying or doing at these tournaments. Worry about yourself and have fun and listen to your parents as much as you can while you're out there, because they probably know more than you think they do or than you give them credit for. You know, I'm going to the Air Force Academy on Wednesday. I leave for basic training, and I never really intended on making a professional career out of tennis, and I don't think I will, because once I graduate Air Force, I've got to pursue a military career. So tennis has taken me as far as I planned and as far as I would like it to. I'm using it to help myself do better in college, because that line between student athlete and student, there's a very fine line, and just because I'm a student athlete, they're not going to lower my homework amount. My tests are going to have the same questions, just as tough. So it teaches you the importance of hard work. You've got to work potentially a lot harder than those other kids do, because I'm spending 5 hours on court a day with my team, and those kids are studying our tests for that 5 hours. So then I got to cram that night and study and stay up until 3 in the morning when those kids might not have to. So it really teaches you the definition of hard work. And so I'm using it to just get to college, enjoy it while I'm in college, meet some friends, stay in contact with those guys that were on my team for those 4 years, stay in contact with those coaches. If I ever need anything, I can, contact those coaches, those friends, and just, help better myself as a person, stay out of trouble while I'm in college. Use it in every positive manner I can while I'm out there. Telling yourself, you can make it through. I've been in slumps where I won a icy hot, a level 1 2 months ago, and now I'm struggling to string together matches in a level 3. It's just slumps, and bodies grow. You don't get used to your muscles being as big as they are now. It's just, part of growing up. Everyone goes through something, and for tennis players, it's just we go through slumps. It just happens. It's part of the game. If it didn't happen, it wouldn't be fun. Because part of the fun is just seeing those results come in and you feeling yourself beating kids that you weren't beating a couple months ago. So it's really just telling yourself, like, hey man, I can do this. I just got to grind. I just got to put in the hours, tell myself I can do it, because that's where it comes back to being how much of it is mental. I said 95%. If you tell yourself I can do this, you're going to be able to do it. But if you say, man, I suck, you're going to lose. Your body's going to believe what the mind thinks, and your results are going to start going downhill the more negative the more negative you speak and you talk. So, positive actions or positive thoughts is how I was raised. So, it's just staying positive on and off court, and everyday life is just going to have a super positive impact on you as a person and a tennis player. Sure. Happy to help.